I see a lot of RVers do this. I see a lot of videos suggesting to do this, but not only is it incorrect, it's derating your safety equipment and it's dangerous. Today, I'm going to show you how to properly and safely connect a travel trailer to a truck. Throughout the process, we're going to talk about why we're doing things in a very specific order, and I want to talk about some common mistakes being made. Let's dive right into it. We are going to start the process at the point where you would raise the tongue and position the truck hitch underneath. Remember, before you change the pitch of an RV, the slide-out rooms should be closed, ground contact and even floating steps should be up. Make sure all your stabilizer jacks are also up, and close all your doors. And one other thing, if you use X-chocks, remove them before raising your tongue. I talk about this in our setup and teardown videos. I've confirmed this with Lippert. Changing the pitch of the RV with X-chocks installed puts rotational stress on your axles and your tires that over time could potentially cause damage. So remove X-chocks if you use them, but keep your standard wheel chocks installed. Those are some of the important things to do before changing the pitch of an RV. If you want to see all the steps prior to hitching up, I'll put a link to our full travel trailer teardown process down below. So with all of those things done, you can raise the tongue jack so it's high enough to clear the hitch ball. Next, we'll need to back the truck up. Do not get discouraged if you don't get it lined up on the first or second attempt. I've been doing this for a long time, and there are still days where I'm making 3, 4, or 5 micro adjustments before everything is lined up. Once you are lined up, go ahead and engage your truck's e-brake. This next step is not something I would consider a mistake. I think the instinct here is to drop the tongue onto the ball and get everything hitched up, but instead connect your safety chains first. It's very unlikely, but in the event that the trailer starts to roll away from the truck as you're changing the pitch, the safety chains will stop the trailer. Cross the chain so the left side connects to the right and vice versa, and if your hitch allows, hook them from underneath instead of over the top. Crossing the chains will create an X or cradle. If the trailer becomes disconnected, in theory, the tongue will rest on the cradle instead of digging straight into the ground. I've seen some demonstrations with unloaded boat trailers that were light enough to manually pick up as if the trailer were becoming unhitched during travel. Sometimes the cradle caught the trailer, sometimes it didn't. It's not a foolproof procedure. It also depends on how your chains are connected to the tongue. If they are spread apart, you will get a wider cradle. If the chains are connected on the trailer at the same point, you get a narrow cradle. All of that said, I'm still crossing my chains because it's at least giving me a chance and it's not hurting anything. Also, with the hook connected from the top, you expose the locking clasp to potential road hazards. Under the right conditions, something from the road can hit this clasp, push it open, or even break it off. And with damage or no clasps at all, there is a slight chance that something can hit the hook and push it off the hitch. With the hook connected from underneath, the clasp is facing up and away from road hazards and less susceptible to being struck. Additionally, the back of the hook is facing the direction of travel, so it's less likely to be knocked off the hitch. I've done it both ways. I've never had a problem either way, but going from underneath seems like the right way to me. Now, the length of the chain is very important, but we're going to wait to talk about that until the truck is at its ride height so I can show you what to look for. Once the chains are connected, now disengage the coupler lock and lower the tongue onto the ball. Once you see the ball disappear into the coupler and the truck start to lower from the weight of the trailer, stop lowering the tongue jack immediately. At this point, close the coupler lock. This will sit flat against the frame if the ball is seated correctly. If it doesn't completely close, you are not properly hitched. Sometimes the ball is just a little too far back for the lock to completely engage around the ball. You will just need to move the truck literally about a ½ inch forward so the coupler can lock correctly. Once you close the coupler lock, immediately install your locking pin before doing anything else. Now the trailer is hitched up, the coupler is locked, the trailer tires are chalked, and the truck e-brake is engaged. Nothing is going to move at this point. Now, there are a lot of different hitches and I can't cover them all today, but I'm assuming most of you have some type of spring bar that connects to a frame bracket or chain hanger. These can be a bear to install because they connect under tension to distribute weight, but raising the tongue jack a little bit will make that process much easier. Since we are connected to the truck, you will see the truck lift when you raise the tongue, and you really only need to go up about 2 to 3 inches from this point. Hitch companies will also tell you to do this to make the process easier, and it's not going to damage the coupler lock. In fact, lifting the truck a few inches with the coupler locked will confirm that it's properly connected. Once you have your bars installed, you can lower the tongue jack so the total weight of the trailer tongue is now on the hitch, and remember to raise your tongue foot as far up as it will go. If you have an electric tongue jack, mark your tongue post at the point where it's fully retracted. A lot of people have had problems with the gears on these binding up by finishing the retraction at full bore. So when that mark gets close, I'll just pulse the retract button so it finishes up nice and easy. If you put blocks under your tongue foot, remove them now and put them away. Okay, now the truck is at or close to its ride height, and this is a good point to talk about chain length. There should be enough slack so you can turn without the chains completely tightening up, but also high enough so they don't make contact with the road. A general rule of thumb is about 3 to 5 inches from the ground. My chains are a little higher because I tow with a tall 1 ton, but that's okay if they are higher as long as you have enough slack in the chains to turn. So if the chains are lower than 3 to 5 inches, what's the solution? You've probably seen people twist their chains to remove some of the slack. I see a lot of RVers do this. I see a lot of videos suggesting to do this. It's derating your safety equipment. When you twist a chain, you side load the links. If the chain needs to do its job, pressure is being applied to the long section of the links. I'll link to the full video below. This is one of many chain tests you can find online. This is what happens to a twisted chain under load. I refuse to charge our viewers to watch any of our videos. They're all free for everyone to watch. Our channel sponsors make this content possible, so I'd like to thank today's video sponsor. RV Snappads have become one of the most popular RV products over the last few years, and now they're available for travel trailers. Snapjacks simply replace the metal foot of your scissor jack, giving your stabilizers up to 274% more surface area, and that means more stability and less sinkage into soft ground. Made from recycled tire rubber, they provide better grip than a metal foot, especially on loose and uneven ground. Snapjacks protect not only your RV landing gear, but prevent scratching, gouging, and rust staining to your driveway or campsite pad. Use the link below and get 10% off your RV Snapjack order. In this example, the twisted chain, indicated by the blue line on the graph, breaks at 1,653 pounds of pressure. The same chain, untwisted, indicated by the red line on the graph, breaks at 6,686 pounds. That's about a 75% load difference. If your chains are too long, remove the hook until your chains are to the correct length. That is really the proper way to size your chains. Okay, we've got 2 things left to connect. First is your brake cable. So how this works in simple terms, you have 12-volt power coming into this junction box on one wire. The other wire connects to your electric brakes. When the pin is installed, it prevents these 2 circuits from connecting. When this pin gets pulled, the switch inside closes and connects the power coming in over to the brakes. There's a few different ways to connect your brake cable, and there's some debate on this too. Some people connect these to the same eyelet you connect your chains with a quick link. Some people, and what I've started doing, connect it somewhere on the actual truck frame instead of the hitch. So what's the correct way? Well, worst case scenario, the entire hitch assembly becomes completely disconnected from the truck, and since the cable is still connected to the truck, it will therefore pull and activate the trailer brakes. If it's connected to the hitch and the hitch comes off the truck, nothing is pulling that cable and nothing is activating the brakes. I don't know the actual statistics, but I would guess that most people are connecting their brake cable to the hook eyelet on the hitch. At least that's what you find in the majority of hitching videos. Here's what I do know. There are 2 important rules to follow wherever you decide to connect your brake cable. First, it still needs a little slack so you can turn, just like the chains. Second, the path of the cable should be in a straight line from the junction box to where it connects. Running the cable around or through things like the chain links gives the cable a chance to break in the middle before it pulls the pin. If you can, I would encourage you to run it to the truck frame. Now onto the power cord. I always save this for last, and I always disconnect the shore power before connecting the 12-volt truck power. There are situations where it's okay to have both power sources connected, and there are situations where you should only have one connected at a time. Everyone's charging system is a little bit different, and we're gonna save that discussion for a future video. So for now, I'll say to disconnect shore power first if you haven't already, before connecting your 12-volt plug. There's not much to worry about here. Make sure the plug is completely in the socket and the cover overlaps the plug to keep it from coming out. Like the chain and the brake cable, it needs to have some slack so you can turn, but not much more than that. And it should not be interfering with any other components on the connection. Once the 12-volt power is connected, turn your truck lights on, and with the hazards on, you can check your running lights, turn signals, and brake lights at the same time. You are now connected, but there's still things to do before actually driving away that I cover in our teardown process video. I'll put a link to that video on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you over in that video. Okay, we've got 2 things left to Okay, we've got two things left